you think, have you faced any barriers since you kind of started boccia on the Paralympic scene?
I think there's definitely been some barriers over the years. I think within boccia, obviously, everybody's kind of on the same boat in terms of having disabilities and having to get by. So a lot of the times, they kind of come together to sort any issues as a whole tournament if you're away competing. But yeah, there's definitely barriers in terms of trying to get an area in a hall to be able to train. That can be sometimes quite difficult. There's not a lot of areas that have boccia courts down in the hall to be able to use, and also things like car parking access and stuff. Sometimes you're quite far away from the hall to get equipment and that in. So things like that, but I think on the whole people are quite interested, quite open to the idea of disability sport. So most of the places try and accommodate you best you can, but sometimes they're just not suited to it, so it's sometimes quite difficult. But on the whole, I think we're quite good at being able to get training and able to compete and stuff. But the biggest issue, I think, is probably still transport in terms of particularly airlines for trying to go to competitions. We still get a lot of problems with that.
Do you think like you're treated on par with kind of able-bodied athletes in the UK?
Yeah, I would say we are on the whole. I think they've done really well, the Paralympics, in terms of getting the coverage of it kind of on a similar level. I think Channel 4 have done a great job of promoting Paralympic Games, trying to get it the kind of same status that the Olympics has. And I certainly think that in terms of the governing bodies that we use, UK Sport and Paralympics GB and the BOA, BP, all those kind of organisations, they really do treat us as on a similar level to the Olympians. And I think that's really important, but I think there's still room to be improved upon. I think the general public still trying to promote disabled athletes as just as impressive as their able-bodied counterparts.
Do you think you guys get the credit you deserve as athletes?
Yeah, I think we do from most of the general public and most of say the kind of governing bodies that are involved in the sporting world. But as I say, I think sometimes a lot of it's just maybe not deliberate. People just don't quite understand. They don't have the same kind of knowledge of the different sports, so they maybe assume that perhaps what's going on is not quite as serious as it is in the able-bodied events. But I think once people's eyes are open to it and they see it for the first time, they get a real appreciation of it. So I think one of the things they have to do is try and get more people involved, get them to come and see Paralympic sport, and then I think attitudes will change.
How has boccia, and more importantly disability sport, advanced since you began playing boccia?
It's massive. When we started, in terms of financial funding, it wasn't at the level it is now. I think I started just before Beijing, 2008. So the money there in terms of where it is now, heading into the Tokyo cycles, is massive, and that's not just Britain, that's Scotland as well. It's just been a massive increase. I think because perceptions have changed, so Paralympic sport is viewed at the same esteem as Olympic sport, so that's been massive.
Do you think it's important that you don't kind of get the stigma and people don't kind of almost feel sorry for you and stuff like that? Do you think it's important just to get rid of that?
Yeah, I think that's crucial. I think obviously not just in sport but in general disability, you'll some people that don't know how to communicate with a disabled person, and perhaps it can come across as patronising. But I think the more and more people see Paralympians on the telly and they see Paralympians in competitions and disabled sports clubs at local level, I think they then learn how to communicate with disabled people, and therefore that stigma kind of gets taken away. So I think I see that increasing, but we're still not there, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done based on that.
How do you think the government has helped? What kind of schemes do you think have brought in that have really helped disability sport?
Well, I think any sports clubs that open up for young disabled people and young able-bodied people, I think is the most important thing. I started this sport when I was 12, and the impact that had was massive. So I think as long as they invest in the grassroots of any sport and try and push it on, I think that's crucial. I mean, it even stretches as far, you know, for us, and particularly the lottery funding we get is crucial. I mean, we wouldn't be able to compete at the same level without the lottery funding. So whether it's government, whether it's lottery funding, I think if it goes in the right areas early, that's the most important thing.
How important do you think it is to develop grassroots, the kind of lower level of disability sport in Boccia?
I think it's crucial. I mean, I think you know, whether you develop a young sports club for disabled people, it's not just about getting new athletes. It's also about improving life quality and the way people view, you know, situations. You know, there's a lot of disabled people that, although you know they may not want to play sport, if it encourages them to be more confident and go into higher education or be more sociable with friends, I think that's crucial. You know, we're not all in the fortunate position of having active lives, and some people deal with disability harder than others. And I think regardless of sport, it's a confidence building process.
Do you feel the UK's got like complete equality in like for disabled people?
I think the UK is one of the leading countries in terms of equality. The disability access onto public transport is improving all the time. Scotland's pretty good as well. Pavements are quite good. I mean, I've travelled for the last 12 years, so I can honestly say that we're one of the better countries.
What's the best and worst countries you think that you've been to?
Best and worst? America's really good for pavements and stuff like that, and things being big and access into shops. But they're not quite there with public transport yet, which is quite interesting. We're good, but quite the opposite. We're good with public transport, not really great with shops at the moment. One of the worst countries is probably the South American countries, you know, your Brazils. I was here 10 years ago where it wasn't really accessible at all, but I suppose since Rio 2016 they've put a lot of money into it, and it is improving.
Is there any competitions like African countries, or is it all kind of Europe?
We have countries from all over the world play. We've got South Africa play, Tunisia play, Morocco play. So there's quite a few African countries. Competition-wise, we've not been over there for one yet. So I'm not sure in terms of access over there. But yeah, it's definitely a worldwide sport, and yeah, they're competing well.
Do you think it's quite an inclusive sport?
Boccia is very inclusive sport. It's very inclusive because you can get disabled people competing against able-bodied people. All you need is a seat or a wheelchair, and you can play boccia.
Do you think disability sport, Paralympic sport, will ever be as big as like able-bodied sport in mainstream media?
That's the mission, the mission and the dream. I suppose the vision is to get Paralympic sport on an even keel as able-bodied sport. It's certainly improving. London was a huge push forward for this movement. We've had some great sports stars help push our sport on, the likes of Oscar Pistorius, but we need a few more. We need a few more athletes like that maybe compete in the Olympics and Paralympics, which has happened in the past, and just help boost their profile.